Thank you so much, Kofi, and many thanks to all the speakers on the session. I've thoroughly enjoyed hearing from the different stakeholders within the market, and then also running through some of the live sessions. It's always fantastic to see the companies included in the program having this level of understanding of this market, having this level of potential impact, and progressing the degree that the SwanaSmartStore project has progressed. So thank you very much for everyone on the call. Perhaps if we can jump directly into the next slide, Kofi. I am conscious of time, so I'll make sure I give a good understanding of what the program looks like with a bit of context in terms of what the typical cohort looks like that sits around these kind of solar projects and the growth and impact that these kind of projects are having. And then lastly, touching on the depth of support that is available via the program, not just on a local level, but on an international level as well, and how we're working with companies like SwanaSmartStores to support them in this journey to scale within these markets and commercialization. In a quick background to the project, the primary purpose of the project and its primary objectives effectively to accelerate innovation that ends energy poverty. I think it's been mentioned a few times. There's approximately 1.1 billion people globally without any access to modern electricity services, and then a further billion on top of that experience different forms of intermittent energy supply and unreliability energy supply. Through the UK government, this has been a big focus on the kind of finance that's been provided from a variety of different UK institutions, and there's been more and more finance being provided on an ongoing basis, facilitated through programs like the Energy Catalyst program, to really drive this kind of innovation that we've seen today at home, so that we can maximize the impact that we have, both from an environmental perspective, but also from a socioeconomic impact perspective in transforming energy access within markets such as Africa, but also within South Asia and Southeast Asia. The primary purposes of the program is to accelerate these solutions, to bring them to market as quickly as possible, to make sure that they're fit for purpose with the needs of the markets and the customers that they're accessing in, to wrap these companies with different forms of networks, both internationally and locally, both from peer groups perspective, so other innovators within the market, but also within the supply chain, within the distribution chain, within customers, and then the regulatory stakeholders that fit around that. And through this kind of work and working with these companies and generating these networks, really try to unlock that impact that I was referring to earlier, that companies like SwanaSmartStore can have within these markets. And then lastly, make sure that from the ecosystem that they're operating in, as well as within the lessons learned that some of the leaders in the programs like SwanaSmartStore is, that the lessons learned in engaging within these markets are shared across different kinds of stakeholders within the market, be that innovators, be that regulatory players, be that different market stakeholders, so that we can consistently learn from our lessons, we consistently learn from our successes, and then we can grow this level of innovation and maximize the impact as a whole. I think to touch on some of the details around, I think some of them were mentioned by Tom Hill a bit earlier in terms of the scale of the program. So just to reiterate, we've invested around 140 million since 2012, and that's across 345 of these kinds of projects. 60 million of this funding is directed specifically towards energy access based projects, and that's around about half of those projects, or energy access projects, of around 156 million. That's across about 300 unique organizations across 29 different countries that we operated in. And about 80%, there's been a growing interest in these kind of projects in Africa. About 80% of those projects are located within sub-Saharan Africa, with Southern Africa actually being the second largest company or region rather of focus. I think there was a question earlier around the ability for companies in Zimbabwe and organizations in Zimbabwe to engage in the program. There absolutely is. The program, as we can see from the slide in front of us, supports collaboration between local partners as well as international partners, so they can absolutely collaborate and apply for this funding. It will be through some form of collaboration with a UK partner, however, be that an administration lead. And the program itself helps in facilitating those networks and facilitating those connections, so that a partnership can be formed and the grants issued. So there's three pillars that exist within the program. There's the competition, whereby applications for grants from the program are submitted. There's that collaboration, so formation of teams, both from the companies themselves, as well as from the networks that are provided from the program. And then something I want to touch on, and I'll touch on a bit more earlier, it's the level of acceleration that's provided by the program and the depth of expertise that sits behind each of these companies. So I just wanted to touch on this slide. The round 8 of the program has just closed. It's a 20 million scale program that has received a really strong application group of companies. I just wanted to provide this as an example of the round 7 program. We haven't decided on which on which companies are coming out of that program just yet. But I wanted to provide this as an example of the kind of process we run through that SwanaSmartStore ran through in the round 7. There's a really rigorous process that goes into selecting the companies that are involved in the program. They're evaluated across 3 key pillars that of how well can they meet this energy trilemma. So how well can they meet the issues that have been really focused on and raised in this call? How can they promote energy security? How can they make sure it's have an impact on sustainability and environmental consciousness? And then lastly, how can they address the big question of cost? How do we make it something that's affordable and scalable within these markets so that we can maximize impact? And there has to be a proved case around the impact that these innovators can have in gender equality and social inclusion. So the companies that we selected, like SwanaSmartStore, are really quite rigorously evaluated from this impact perspective, but also from a due diligence perspective, and are selected from hundreds of applicants that come through for these programs as potential innovation leaders within the market. Great. So this, I just wanted to give a quick indication of what that regional spread looks like for these companies. I mentioned a bit the innovators, big focus on Sub-Saharan Africa. 80% of the companies, as I said, within round 7 are in Sub-Saharan Africa, and Southern Africa represents the second largest region within all the global areas that we work with a big focus on the technologies I'll show on the next slide. So maybe we can jump to the next slide there, Kofi. Quick overview of the kind of companies that we invest in. I think I just wanted to raise the slide just to highlight the importance of solar and smart grid technologies that we're investing in. This is a substantial trend we have seen grown over the past few years, and it's innovators like the SwanaSmartStore project that is really driving interest and funding in these kind of projects moving forward. Solar as a whole is a technology that is that at its core, at its base, is a more de-risked technology within Africa. So it has that interest and understanding from the investor community. However, the levels of innovation that can then be put on top of it from a smart grid-based perspective and to increase the efficiencies through appliances such as heating appliances, storage appliances, is really driving this level of interest and innovation from the broader financier market. This slide just gives a quick indication that it's not just our program on the right that's looking into solar. Other programs are looking even more into these kind of solar applications. So there's from 11 different non-energy catalyst portfolios we analyzed across 126 projects. The overwhelming majority of interest within these kind of energy access technologies from a financier's perspective are in these kind of solar innovation projects. I wanted to spend some time touching on this. So outside of the grant-based funding, as I mentioned earlier, there's dedicated support that's provided through the program through different forms of experts that effectively sit across the range of business services in understanding the customer and giving access to customers and providing different sort of strategic and business development advice, supply chain support, sales and business development support, and then real dedicated experts that sit within providing investment readiness, providing fundraising access, support in design of products and legal expertise. And this sits underneath and provides access from companies like our projects and the companies that exist within the consortium of SwanaSmartStore to access on a needs basis when needed. And this just gives a quick understanding of the number of companies that effectively exist within the consortium of the Energy Catalyst program that our companies have access to. They have finance specialists on call, they have country specialists on call. We have dedicated coaches and mentors when necessary to assist companies in accessing new markets, in accessing new application networks, and in accessing new partnerships to allow them to scale, be that market access, be that finance, and then also supporting from a top-level perspective, promotion of the materials, increase in connections and cross-program support. For more information, you can go to the website, the Energy Catalyst website, or come directly through to me. My information is down below, but happy to answer any questions that may come along.